Hiya G-Man, 10G, it's me, Chug Manmilk, your new recapper for the rest of the season. Hi, it's match day 10, and I'll be briefly going over what happened and what occurred in match day 9. So, before we get going, it's lovely to meet you. This is going to be quite slapdash, quite basic of a recap for this week. I'm just trying to get something out to make sure you have your recap for week 9. It's a bit short notice, but I promise in future recaps I'll try and pretty up things a bit more. Try and edit videos. This will very much just be quite raw in comparison to what I'm hoping to do in future recaps. Secondly, I would love to have a co-commentator or co-caster with me as I do these things. It's good for just the flow of the show, for the banter, for getting a few more minutes out of the recaps. Plus, it gives a bit more insight and a bit of back and forth. I ideally wanted someone this week from the division to come onto the show to speak with me, to give an overview of their team, but also an overview of the league, if they know what's been going on, etc. But because I couldn't get anyone this week, if anyone in the next 2 weeks that we have left of covering a division would like to come on the show, I implore you to reach out to me. You can find me on Discord under Botswana. Otherwise, you can always find me directly on Reddit through PMs as Chug Manmilk. But without further ado, let's begin and let's cover the standings of the division as we go into week 10. At the top of the standings is the Dwarf team, the Doc Montepulciano. I'm not great with pronunciation of anything that isn't old, blighty, English, British naming convention, so please correct me if I take a bit of time to acclimatize to everything. Secondly is Necromantic, Breakneck Rampage. Third is Bretonians, Crusading with the Boys. Girls Gone Wild, Amazons, quickly up there on 4th. We have Lizardmen 5th with the Cento Monteditos. Kemery with Sanderpants is 6th. Not for the Cat, number 1, Skaven at 7th. Dark Elves, Untamed Witches at 8. In 9th place we have the Orcs. Rounding off at number 10 is Soul Guys. 11th is Lizardmen. And 12th is the Dark Elf Rolling Renegades. Now, you've had a long season, guys. You've played many games. You've probably had ups and downs for your teams. Some had great records. Some have, unfortunately, not had a season to remember. And as far as I'm aware, there are currently 5 teams that are still really, realistically, in your division, able to qualify for play-ins. Those are the top 5 teams realistically. So that is the Dwarves, the Necromantic, the Amazons, the Bretonians, and of course the top Lizardman team, coached by Sam Pitu. Theoretically, you could also see the Kemery if mathematically they're not out, but I haven't also checked their schedule, so it's more than likely, that it will be impossible for the Kemery coach to be able to make up both the touchdowns and somehow beat out the Necromantic on touchdown difference. So for the sake of being realistic, let's say that the top 5 are the only people who can make play-ins. Which, of course, means it's a decently tight division. The Lizardmen at 5th are a little bit of a rank outsider, but the top 4, there is only a point or 2 in it, which is, quite frankly, very fun and very interesting, especially for me, your humble recapper. So, in the next 2 weeks, that is, I will be pretty excited to see how the title race develops. Now, let's take a brief look at what happened on day 9 in terms of the results. And there are some quite earth-shattering kind of results for this division, which really apparently opened things up in a way that perhaps maybe it wasn't as tight last week, but this week there's everything to play for. Starting off the week, we have a 1-1 rather, between the Rolling Renegades and the Untamed Witches. This was a Dark Elf mirror. Not a terrible result there. As far as I'm aware, the Dark Elves, however, have no chance of the play-ins, so that's not the most important result. But a really big result here is the 2-0 against the Dwarfs, pulled off by the Lizman coach in 5th. This has kept, firstly, Sam Pitu's chances of getting to play-ins. That hope is still alive, even if it is a relatively slim hope. In addition, it's also made the top Dwarf coach's chances of play-ins. It's hit his campaign a little bit, because if that was a win, from what happened in the rest of Game Week 9, that would have pretty much assured him the play-in spot. He could still be knocked out. I think he could still be knocked out if he didn't manage to pick up points there, I think. Yeah, if he somehow dropped all the points and then the people in 17th picked up 6 points, then maybe you could have seen the Dwarf coach be knocked out if he had won that game. But now because of that loss, the top 2 is even tighter than it could have been. Then we have a 2-0 between the Amazons and the Khemri team, which is not great for the Khemri, because the Khemri could have still made it, but for the Amazons, really strengthens their play in hopes. So a fantastic result there for Mortal. I'm sure you'll be very proud of that. Then we have a very big match as well. Once again, another one for the top, which was the Bretonians versus the Necromantic. The Necromantic, with that win, managing to snag 2nd place, while the Bretonians still look good for the play-ins, but now have it all to do, as they have to not only rely on winning their next 2 games, but also making sure results go their own way. Then we have a 2-1 down there. That was the Woodies versus the Lizards, and by Lizards I mean this is the Artillery's Lizards, so it's the ones that aren't in playoff position. This was less of a game, a less important game than the last 3. But still, I'm sure for the bottom of the table, every game is still important for SBP, for Pride, so congratulations there to the Wood Elves. And then we have the Skaven securing a big 1-0 versus the Orcs. If the Orcs had won that, they might have had a outsider chance in getting into playoffs, or play-ins rather. It once again would require a lot of results to go their way, much like the Khemri would require a lot of results. But still, that effectively ends their play-in title. So commiserations, but fantastic effort there from the Skaven coach, who apparently has only played 3 games. So 201 after 3 games, not bad. It's a bit unfortunate there seems to have been 1 dropout in this division. If anyone knows what went on there, if anyone could tell me just what the situation with the Noble coach was, and that, I'd love to hear. But otherwise, congratulations to the Skaven. It's a good win, and yeah, fantastic. So that was game week 9. A week definitely of massive results. Definitely a week that really shook up what teams could potentially make play-ins. it was a week that really tightened the division and made it even more exciting. So, again, because this is now my sort of first introduction to the entire league, I've only had a small chance to look at each and every team in my own time. I haven't had a chance to look at any of the games in big detail, in close detail, but I assure you in the coming 2 weeks I'll make sure to pick one or two either massive results or games I think will be big in terms of play-ins. Watch them, potentially even stream them. If you'd like a game streamed and I can make it, once again, please ping me and I'll try and get that sorted out. So when I look into these teams now, it will be sort of my first exposure to your teams. I'll give my brief thoughts on how I think development is going, where else you can go from there, and pretty much it. Your stead also maybe for the next season. So we're going to start off here now with the Amazons, or we'll start off with the A's. Girls Gone Wild, coached by Mortal. Generally had a pretty good season, 5-2-2, one of the playing contenders. Let's look at the team roster. First thing that immediately jumps out at me is a good amount of stat ups. Movement on the catcher is, I think, a very nice skill. It allows for sudden breaks if you need sudden breaks to happen. Because of the Amazons' very average stat line, them being not particularly fast, this can sometimes be the difference between having to throw GFI as a score and not. I really like it, and plus it gives you a credible two-turner threat, or even one-turner threat. A one-turner with this 7 movement piece is much easier. So some people might not like to take it when the catcher is so naked, but my immediate big advice to Mortal would be get a touchdown on that immediately. The thing is that the Amazon team, because they're so close to play-ins, doesn't really have the luxury to do too many handoffs. So it might be safer just keeping the ball on, say, the thrower and scoring either on the throw from a running in, or just hoping that the game goes so blindingly well that they do get a chance to hand off to, say, the 7 movement catcher. But with only one touchdown or even one Kaz, definitely focus on that. But the thing you should also focus on, if you can, is get the level up in the blitzer more importantly. The blitzers have some fun development, not the worst blitzers I've seen. The 2 edge up on these pieces, one on the thrower, which is a thrower on the Amazon team is really a sort of a, you can pick it, you can take it or leave it. It's probably the most controversial piece on the entire roster, which is saying something, because it's hard to say that any of these pieces are particularly controversial. But it is, but the edge up makes it all the more worth it. The edge up on the blitzer, however, is good because Amazons need stats to survive in the long term. They need something more to their play than just they've got lots of blodge. So I don't at all begrudge the blitzer getting this edge up. It will make it very useful and a very interesting piece to play with. But the current issue, I think, with the team is it needs more guard. Amazons need to really be good at winning bash wars whenever they can. The amount of blodge, also with the amount of guard they can get while having a very trim TV, is usually what makes team work. But of course, 5-2-2, the team has definitely been working well as a unit to secure those wins, secure those ties as well. The stat ups are things I probably wouldn't generally turn down anyway. You've also got some very important pieces there with the kick and the dirty player. So you have both a pitch control game and also a fouling game. so you have the damage. And I do like this blitzer. I like the tackle over, say, going piling on as a second skill. It's a very useful piece. Just get that catcher a little something, get the blitzer, its guard, and it'll be fantastic. Moving on to the Dark Elves. A decent TV jumps out immediately. That Witch Elf is insane. 8 movement, 4 strength. That's a superstar player. That is a superstar player, and that by itself will definitely probably make you want to keep the team. But of course, it is quite bloaty. It does add 50, 90. It adds about 50k. If these were all normals, it's a 50k extra. But I guess having a really fast, amazing one-turn potential piece anyway, in addition to having something that surfs like mad, it's just worth it. Needs more survivability, needs that block. You might as well just kind of get a touchdown on the Witch Elf so you can get block and make that into whatever. But I wouldn't mind seeing if you can for the next 2 games, because you don't have play-in hopes. Maybe develop that. But I also like how the blitzers develop. Going blodge is very good. You've got tackle as well. You've got the utility. You've got wrestle as well, just in case. The runner is having the leader, and the fact that it doesn't really have too many touchdowns. It seems like it's only scored about 3. Personally, I think that this is a team that's coming along very nicely. As a disclaimer as well for the future teams I'm looking at in this recap, I'm not sure if players have died. I'm not sure if you've had a lot of deaths or injuries and like you've had to sort of constantly keep rebuilding your team. But this looks like it's been relatively healthy. I would expect this from a Dark Elf team generally at, 9 games in? Yeah, 11 games in. I don't at all mind this. This team can be very effective, and that Witch Elf definitely is worth the price of admission, so to speak. Now we go to top dwarves. Let's see this team. Okay, so all positionals. Makes sense. Decent amount of guard, 3 guards. Not the most guards you can see on a team, on a dwarf team, but it's effective. My blow piling on blitzer is very good. That runner is fantastic though. It negates the one thing that dwarfs don't really have, which is a breakaway potential. As long as you just get decently up the pitch and then have a path to clear, he'll be fantastic. The runner having wrestle is, you know, it's a bit weird. It's a bit, but I can kind of see it because it's your fastest piece, so why not have that be a piece that can sack? You know, these long beards here, they have tackle, but they don't run fast at all. So the runner having that, it makes sense. It does make sense. I'm not a dwarf coach, but I like that. Guard on the second blitzer is good. I like that. It's best not to build both of them into killy pieces. Longbeard having my I guess that's, yeah, why not? If that was guard though, I'd still like that more probably, because my theory with dwarves and those kind of teams is volume of blocks definitely is better than just having a +1 to injury or armor roll most of the time, and guard lets you get, say, potentially 2 blocks instead of just 1. The troll slayers being really having nothing on them is because they're 8 armor, they're not particularly fast or agile. Yeah, they will be useful in the future, but this is the real glaring hole currently in the dwarf team. Get that developed, it'll be looking a lot nicer. Get that the mighty blow. Get that the piling on, and this dwarf team will be looking pretty complete for its TV and the 8 games that it's played. And the record is very good on the team, so Gardon, great work. Here we go with Bretonia. Now someone, funnily enough, actually posted this team in another league that I'm in's chat, because some of us also play on Reddit. Some of us cross over into the Reddit League, and someone posted this team's name, Crusading with the Boys, and specifically the motto, Kraken and Elf Skull, open with the boys. And we loved it. So in many ways, you're already famous. I already know this team. I'm already acquainted. And obviously the first thing that stands out is, whoa, wow, 5-edge blocker. Insane. I'm not sure what to think about that, because yeah, now that becomes just the best elf piece in the world. It's a bit slow, but it's resilient, and it's 5-edge. Because there's a big issue with Bretonnia, which is you either have to carry on the blitzers and potentially like waste one of your most useful pieces just being a ball carrier, and also you can't really carry on the blockers because they're your guards, so you're once again giving away a very useful piece, and you can't use the linesman like you could in a human team. The issue is that Bretonnia is really bad for ball carrying, but the blocker having 5-edge, not only is that now your definite certified ball carrier, but he even becomes a pretty damn good thrower. So it's crazy, but it just might work. In terms of what I would put on that, I don't know. You could go sure hands. You could just say, well, now it is really truly going to be a ball carrying piece. Wouldn't hate that. If you did go that direction, I would maybe also consider at some point getting block, just because it's not nice having a wrestle ball carrier. And block at least allows you to turn off wrestle or turn on wrestle. The second thing that jumps out is definitely, though, the blitzers aren't... There's one superstar blitzer and the rest are kind of underdeveloped. But from the looks of it, because I was wondering, why is this one a superstar and these ones not? Surely he's not leveling just this one, especially considering his record's pretty good. But after investigation, this team's taking a lot of deaths, apparently. I know 2 games ago, I think against the Skaven, might have not been the Skaven, might have been the Dwarves. Yeah, the MVP went to a dead blitzer. So it's probably just terrible luck to lose some of your best players. These will level up quickly in time. I would say, just as a basic bit of advice, not that you probably need it, because, as I say, great record, just pick one of these for next game to level up. Just one gets to score twice on 2-1 grind. Otherwise, not a fouling game yet, but then again, can't really expect that. Peasants really level up if they're lucky, and if you're unlucky that they get the MVPs. Blockers definitely need more guard, but my advice is, you have a good shot at the play-ins, go for play-ins over any sort of leveling up. But this definitely focus more on the blitzers, because you need more blodge for that potential play-in place, I think. We have Wood Elves next, low TV, which usually implies either not a lot of games played, a decent amount of games played, but maybe potentially a lot of deaths or not a lot of skills. There we go. Firstly, love the theme. And now it becomes a bit obvious why the TV is a bit low. Seems to be purely because a War Dance is out. And that is just out, right? Yeah, just out, just an M&G. And a linesman who's also pretty expensive, is they essentially cutting off about 210 TV. Hasn't had the most storming of seasons, but then again, I feel like that kind of can happen to Wood Elves. Some Wood Elf teams just don't really gain the traction they need. Great out of the box, but they're hard to really get going sometimes. However, big fan of the grab treatment. I think that's the perfect treatment. I think kudos for recognizing that guard first on the treatment is sometimes not the best thing to take. I think it's a bit of a trap. Strip ball War Dancer, perfect. 9 movement catcher, fantastic, brilliant piece. This linesman having 5 edge you have some really nice things on these. And to be honest, yeah, you have, what, one movement down and an MMG, but for a first season Wood Elf team, this is surprisingly healthy. My advice might be, you might like to turn this into your primary ball carrier, this linesman. I guess the throw for the pass is always useful, and this just getting sure hands might be a bit of a waste. But either turn this into a very effective sacking piece, give that wrestle if you can, and or turn that into your ball carrier and just get rid of the throw. It usually means just about 20 TV. It's just about 20 TV difference. Or you could develop this throw into a leader for the third reroll. Yeah, those are your two options. Those are really your two options. Because that linesman is fantastic. But what can I say? I'm not a Woody coach. I love Kislev and I love Underworld. But generally, really good team. This implies a death, so I'm sure this was even better of a piece before its untimely removal. But otherwise, this team has a little bit of everything that it kind of needs. It just needs another instance of wrestle, tackle on that War Dancer, obviously, when it gets the SPP. I'm sure it will be. Focus on getting that War Dancer up, get a second tackle, not a second tackle, a second wrestle, and this team will be great for the next season. This is the Nurgle team that has dropped out, so we'll just ignore that one. Orcs. Firstly, there's a level up. Don't like that. Don't like the don't like waiting on a level up. If I could ask any coaches to get a level up to make your decision, it just makes my recapping a lot easier. But otherwise, let's talk about the team. Block on the thrower, whatever. Obviously, the thing that pops out is all 4 blitzers got Mighty Blow first. I'm not a big proponent of the school of thought where it's like, let's make all these things hit as hard as possible, because maybe you can get like a lot of casualties. Although Orcs are a team which have a lot of strength anyway, they really also rely on the guard, whilst these Black Orcs are kind of naked. This one's fantastic, but you only have one instance of guard. And I think guard is just way more effective in any given situation or in any game, generally, for getting results, because Mighty Blow might not fire, and you might only get one hit, say, per turn with a blitz. If you're playing a team, for example, like Dwarves, who then just spam guard, and they can't let you get a hit in. They don't let you get a hit in edgeways. So, in many ways, I guess this level up is kind of a blessing. My advice: give that guard immediately, and then focus, because you can't make play-ins right now. Do all you can to make sure your blitzers get more guard, and then if you have the guards, they'll just be backing each other up, giving each other assists, stopping people from hitting them away, and thus, when it rolls over to your turn, hopefully you'll find that more of your pieces are standing up, more of your pieces are in base contact, you get more 2-dies, and you'll do more damage that way. I like to build, for example, in human teams, Amazon teams, to go guard, Mighty Blow on those 4 blitzers, for example, because they do that. But even then, I still think that you need guard, because if you get 1 block with Mighty Blow, it's going to be less effective on average than, say, 3 blocks because you had guard. Even if you're like fighting 9 armor, you'll probably chip more off that way. 2 Black Orcs having block is good. They're very developed. You might want to also focus on this, and because you don't have the team in a play-in spot, my advice might be, if this gets a Kaz, hand off to that if you think you're either safe or you think, well, I have a reroll. It won't matter much the result. Or maybe it will matter. Maybe it'll be a difference between a win. But I think at this point, maybe you might take a chance on handing off to a Black Orc. It's a 75% play if you have a reroll. So that's not a bad idea in my mind. Okay, let's look at the non-play-in Lizard team. Is it a long playoff lizard team? Hold on. Hold on. Yeah, it is a long playoff lizard team. Let's see. There's 13, 20. Ooh. Ooh. Skink doesn't. The Crocs doesn't need much. This Saurus having 8 armor is brutal. This Crocs having a Niggle is brutal. All of them having block, apart from one Saurus, and that having break tackle. The development's good, but the problem is that 2 of the block ones are effectively dead. You could keep this one. I guess you could keep both of them really, but understand that with this Saurus, if he gets hit by Mighty Blow, that's effectively 7 armor. If that thing breaks, that could be the difference between a KO and a Kaz. You don't really have the money right now. I'm sure you're constantly having a lot of issues with injuries this season. Because money is so tight. That's what I assume. Unless this is a completely fresh Crocs that you didn't have at the beginning of the team. Or you had a Crocs that died and you had to replace that, and that's why. But my general advice would be, at this, save money if you can. You need to replace these Crocs quick sharp. But otherwise, you know, the block is good. You've got quite a few amount of block. This gives you a little bit of maneuverability, even if it also desperately needs block. Decent range of SPP. You know, there's no one who's like a massive superstar. But yeah, replace these Sauruses when you can, I would say. Next we have the second Dark Elf team. And doesn't have a super duper stat freak like the previous one, but the doubles are fantastic. And these things will be fantastic if you decide to take this team onto the second season. I think you should, because this Witch Elf is good. Mighty Blow, that's just a menace. Effective Blitzer, good Blitzer. As soon as that gets dodged, that'll be even better. This will be a fantastic piece. This will be a constant thorn in the side of all of your opponents. It'll be hard to hit, but also it will just essentially say to anyone who's playing a 3 strength team, I can effortlessly move out a piece to run down an avenue and score, or to cage up elsewhere. This will be potentially either a great equalizer or a great advantage in your future games. Witch Elf needs something, but I assume this is new. What the linesmen got have been fantastic. Because I'm giving the same advice to people previously in the recap, I would say if because you're not in play-ins, a big goal would be level up one of either the Blitzer or the Witch Elf. Probably more so the Blitzer, I'd say. You need the Blitzers to all be firing. But if you can score a random Kaz with one of the linesmen, block. You give them the touchdown, because block guard would just be phenomenal, and it would make your team so much better at bashing. Not a terrible record. You've had probably just a lot of games that didn't quite go your way, I assume. A lot of 1-1s. Sometimes that happens. But yeah, this is a good team. Both Dark Elf teams, I think, have really certain good pieces or certain good things about them, which makes them exciting for the next season. So hats off to the Dark Elves. Next we have the second place Necromantic team. Ooh, okay. Okay. This is disgusting. 9 movement. Oh my god. What more could you want from a werewolf? Mighty Blow, 4 strength. So that's... You got Claw, Mighty Blow, and 4 strength. Fantastic piece of Frenzing. It can hit almost anything for 2 die. It's just a little bit safer from Frenzy Trapping. It's so close. Just MVP away from the next skill. Brilliant. This white is effective at hitting as well. It's tackle. You've got your Blodge Ghoul. Everything. Also guard zombie. Obviously, it's sad that these flesh golems don't have anything, and it's also sad that because you're not in because you are in play-ins, you can't, like some of the other people we've been speaking about. Kim, you can't really afford to hand off or do anything too risky. So that's sad. The one criticism of this team is, although you have some fantastic blitzing pieces and you have your kill skills and you have just something that can run away from everything, that this thing is a much better gut runner, apart from the agility, of course. The only issue is that there is a really big lack of guard in your team. This zombie, having it is pretty good. It'll help. But I would definitely suggest, if you get a level up on the white, guard. No more kill skills, guard. You have all the kill you need. You need guard. These need block, but then they get guard afterwards. Any double on the zombies will definitely have to be guard. And also, you need. I know it goes against the sort of the thing of necromantic, but depending on who you play next week, I would say buy another zombie because you just need a fouling game, and I don't trust fouling with 11 men. So just more guard, more bodies to protect from getting sent off, or the random Kazes, which can happen even with regen. And this team is a monster. I can understand fully why this team is 603. Yeah, I think it has a lot of potential. And it kind of makes also a lot of sense. Oh, actually, you know, this team has had up and down weeks. It's not like it got really good at a late stage and has been crushing all throughout. But you have a lot of good tools. I think the spotty results have generally just been due to probably a lack of guard in some areas. Yeah, so guard, one more body, I think, would be very important. Look at the Khemri team. Oof. Missing Tomb Guardian. That's annoying. Yeah, I can see why maybe, for example, the Amazons that are hurting on you. Maybe you lost that in that game, did you? You did. You conceded. Bad form, don't concede. I know conceding's tough. Don't concede. Yeah, please don't. It's tough for all of the admins involved if you do that. This was a skeleton that got doubles. I would have given that guard, mate. I would have given that guard personally. Because you need Garden's team to be even more effective at just being a control team. I think the Mighty Blow first on the Tomb Guardians is probably a slight bit ineffective. I think going for Kaz to even outscore, even if you have a bunch of 5-strip pieces, is not as effective as just stopping people getting even one dies on your pieces. Blitzer are a bit underdeveloped as well. Edge up on the Throw Ra is a fantastic gift. Edge up on the Skeleton, I think, is a bit of a waste. All in all, this team has some strong potential there in that Throw Ra. That one will be a godsend in certain situations. I would say think about whether you want to take certain stat ups. Just accept your skeletons are kind of going to be hit. They already have a certain amount of survivability with the regen and the thick skull. If you have money, buy more skeletons. Brutal that you lost a Tomb Guardian. But yeah. Unfortunate. If you keep this team, which you might, because you're not really going to make playoffs, get more guard. I think probably make a killer Blitzra, even though you have some killer pieces already. But when this piece gets a random Kaz, get that immediately to have guard. You need the guard. And I hope you get the next Tomb Guardian quite soon. Now, we have two more teams. We have the Lisbon team that is in playoff range, even if it's just barely on the outside. Looks a lot like the last Lisbon team. Good amount of block on the Sauruses. You don't quite have guards yet, but I'm sure the reliability of blocking and how people can't really throw effective one dies against you anymore is it makes this team a solid team for the next season. The block on the Croc score is brilliant. It's fantastic. The Croc score I think is one of the best big guys in the game, so that's a massive boon. Blodge Skink is never terrible. Turn that into maybe the ball carrier, and it'd be tough to even sack. What's this skink looking like? Yeah. I know the skink has developed. Kill that skink. That skink is now a waste of 100 TV. I think he doesn't even have block. So either it's even tackle. Skinks are replaceable. You have the money. Replace him. But otherwise, yeah, this is a good team. If somewhat unremarkable, two doubles going towards just block both times on pieces that can't get it makes these pieces really effective. I think this team is in really good stead, and evidently has no money problems. So yeah, I want to buy some more skinks to make sure you're not playing with loners, because loner skinks are all right, but I still wouldn't want to play with them. Or maybe even consider getting some sort of stadium enhancement. But 522, you're well up there still. And in terms of what to do for the next few games, just win. Just try and win. Try to get there. I wouldn't bother handing off to any of these because of their one edge. But yeah, looking really good. Well done, Lizardman coach. Well done, Sampitu. Finally, we have the Skaven. Last team for the night. This has only played 3 games, so we're obviously going to be... But has it only played 3 games, though? It's played 601. So this is one that's come up through ramp up. This will make a lot more sense. So nothing to comment on the actual how you've done in this league, but in terms of the development, yeah, that's about what you'd want for a thrower. Amazing you've got Claw and Storm Vermin. Once he gets Mighty Blow, he'll just be amazing. He'll be a brilliant piece. A lot of linesmen are really healthy for a Skaven team. You have a 2-man bench, so gotta be happy with that. This piece is really, really good. Probably would become the 1-turner. Purely because of the catch. Love a Russell Gut Runner. Dauntless without block or anything is, I think, a little suboptimal. Of course, with how fast he's leveled up, you could just be handing off to that guy in the next 2 games. And considering you are just a ramp-up team, not really competing for playoffs, probably just go and supercharge that into a really good piece. Give that the wrestle that it needs. Yeah, you have to say, this looks remarkably healthy for a Skaven team. Skaven teams usually go pop. In my division I play in GMAN 10A, we have a Skaven team who got about 6 movement busts coming out of Greenhorn. His team looked really banged up. But this is going to be a great team for Season 2, I think. Because you've got the double for your Storm Vermin, which assures this piece, if it survives and gets the next either 2 handoffs for a score or 3 Kaz, which it can quite easily do, because although it's just Claw, not Mighty Blow, you can still high roll on the injuries against 9 armor because of that Claw. That when he gets the Mighty Blow, he'll be well worth the price of admission. The Gutter Runners need a little bit of work, but that's fine. That's the thing that needs the least amount of work. Fantastic record as well, 601, really good. Wow. Really, team that needs a little bit more focus on certain pieces. But for a 7-game-old Skaven team, pretty good, pretty healthy. This has the definite sort of seedlings of a superstar team. And that, for how the teams looked in game week 9 and also being introduced to the teams, that's it. That's all of it. So we've checked the leaderboards, we've checked the schedules, I've given you advice on how I think a lot of these teams could progress. Now we go into game week 10. Let's look at some of the big matches. Obviously, Dwarves playing a non-play-in contender. This would be for pride for the Dark Elves. For the Dwarves, this must win. You have to win this. And with the speed that the Dark Elves have, it could be really a bit of trouble if the Dwarves can't force people into bashing games, if they allow too much space. This could either be one of those games where it's a 2-1 or a 3-1 to the Dark Elves, or it's a very successful precise bashing game for the Dwarves who don't let those Dark Elves get away, take out a few people, and thus they are the ones who can grind while shutting out the Elves on their Elves offense. So it's hard to say who this is going to go towards. I think Dwarves might get it. Dwarves have to get it. I think the Dwarves with certain things like the fast runners, that they have a few things to at least I think clinch it, to make sure they get the score on the board, because the biggest issue of the Dwarf team is if they just can't score. But this Dwarf team can score. They have the tools, they have everything they need. So I'm going to predict probably 2-1 to the Dwarves. Next we have Sanderpants, the Khemri team, versus the Rolling Renegades, which is the other Dark Elf team, isn't it? It's the other Dark Elf team. Yeah, it is. Khemri hate elves. Khemri really hate elves. Thus, I can't really say anyone could win this apart from the Dark. I think the Dark Elves have enough. Missing one of your strength 5 is a big issue. The strength up also on the Rolling Renegades really kind of helps negate that a bit. It gives you an easier 2 die or even a 1 die. He moves faster in the Dark Elf team. Lack of edge on this team, and also a bunch of Aloners coming in for next week. I will say this is going to be a Dark Elf win. Next, we have quite a big game there. We have the Necromantic versus... Hold on. Necromantic versus the Lizardman team in 5th. So this is theoretically a play-in face-off for the Necromantic to reach either first place if they can, and for the Lizardmen to keep their relatively slim hopes of getting a playoff spot alive. Well, that Necromantic team is really juiced, and with its Claw Mighty Blow and its strength up, I think it has the tools really to deal with the quite bare bones Lizard team. So for that reason, I can't really go against my gut, which is Necromantic will win this. I'm sure the Lizardman team will give a good account for themselves, but I really think Claw Mighty Blow might do a thing, especially considering how reliable that Claw Mighty Blow is. In addition, you have a really fast Wolf, so even the speed of the Skinks isn't going to help offset either 1, the amazing offensive threat that the Necromantic have, but 2, a Skink Potato isn't going to work because of how fast those Wolves move. So, I gotta say Necromantic. So this is going to be Amazons next versus the other Lizardman team. And if Death Lizzies is the slightly broken Amazon team, sorry, the slightly broken Lizardman team, which it is, I think. It's the one with the 8 armor and the niggle. Yep, it is. In which case, comparing that to the Amazon team, you have the tackle and the mighty blow for the skinks. You can choose just to disengage from any fight with the Saurus that you want because of the not only the edge up in certain pieces, but just the general dodge. They have nothing that can really deal with blodge or even dodge, apart from a bit of block. So, but the blodge they can't deal with. Obviously, I wish the Amazons had more tackle, so it's less clear cut. But I just think that this is kind of the epitome of a 2-1 grind for the Amazons, I think. I think the Amazons have just enough. Plus, I think they might, if they have a good round of blocks with that 8 Armosaurus and with that Nigglesaurus, they could definitely strongly swing it. So I think just the versatility Amazons make me think that although Amazons versus Lizardman isn't always a great matchup for the Amazons, this one definitely, this Lizardman team versus this Amazon team, got to give it to the Amazons. We have Orcs now versus the Bretonnians, and the Bretonnians won't like this. Bretonnians need a result, but the amount of 8 and 7 armor they have, especially considering how many kill skills this Orc team has, and just how underdeveloped this team is. Yeah, a bit of guard. More guard than the Orcs have, actually. Basically, the game plan for the Bretonnians, in my mind, is hopefully you have enough guard to hold them off in addition to Dauntless doing something. They won't be able to crack maybe either these blitzers, this blitzer here if he's the ball carrier or if he's just someone to be a constant scoring threat. Also, the fact that you have a blocker with 5 edge means you can throw from almost anywhere in the pitch, and you can also sack in pretty much any kind of cage he puts up. You have a decent option to sack, especially because he has almost no guard. You can quite reliably get a 1 die on the ball that isn't horrible. So that is a crazy option. That's a kind of a desperation option, but it's there. You have some stuff for the Bretonnian team, but I don't like Orcs as a matchup for Bretonnians, even though you do have Dauntless and you have those kind of tools. Then again, you could just base up, see if you crack like an egg and do damage. So you want to say with the strength of the Bretonnian coach's record that maybe Bretonnians can pull something out of the bag, but I would say that Orcs, this match swings to Orcs. I think it's likely going to be an Orc win. But prove me wrong, Crusading the Boys. Prove me wrong. Last game we have an Adjuff. We have Skaven versus the Wood Elves. This one's hard. This one's hard to predict. You have lots of fast pieces, you have lots of agility, and both teams actually look quite good for what they are. Strip Ball won't do a thing because the thrower has sure hands. So, you know, and you only have one War Dancer. You do have a tree, and Claw's not going to do anything really apart from on that tree, but it's going to take a lot of resources just for one Storm Vermin to hit the tree. So that tree is probably just going to be completely ignored. Storm Vermin, you know, is pretty much... So Claw wasn't going to be a factor here. Not a lot of killing on either side. Not a lot of kill skills. You have Mighty Blow on the tree, but it's not very mobile anyway. You have Claw on the Skaven, as I mentioned, but no Mighty Blow. So this is hard. My prediction, I can't tell you it's going to be a win for either side. It could be a 2-2, could be a 3-3. I think this is going to be a game that is most likely going to be a shootout event where both teams constantly score, and either one team slips up and allows one more touchdown than the other team allows, Or because everything's 7 armor, you could say, well, wild card, one team crumbles randomly. But otherwise, it could be a 2-2, 3-3. I predict this to be a quite solid tie. And that was game week 10 for GMAN 10G. I'm excited to see what happens this week. No games have been played whatsoever, so we are completely on tenterhooks for the next weekish. I may not be with you for very long, only for the 2 weeks. But I'm really sort of looking forward and excited to get to know some of you. I implore you to reach out to tell me some of your thoughts on this video, but just in general on the league. Once again, if someone would like to join me to do a recap next week, I would love to have you on. Because as an outsider looking in, I'm sure there's lots that I've missed, and I'm sure there's lots of sort of stories about certain teams, results, games, league, just the league in general that I don't quite pick up on yet. But unfortunately, that's all we have time for. I think this is going to be a fairly long one because, well, it's the introduction. It's the first one that we've done. This new for me as a new recapper. So hopefully you sit down and watch this for however long it goes on. I would like to think it's 40 minutes. Maybe it's longer. But hopefully you've enjoyed this video. I'll be back again for next week to cover all what's happened in game week 10. Good luck everyone with their games and their results this week. I hope that everyone who is in the playoff position or looks good for the play-ins, hope you all find that the dice are fair upon you. For everyone who isn't in the playoff position, I hope that you can get some good development for the next season. This has been Chug Manmilk. I have been your recapper for this week. Signing off.